Raise the vehicle up and remove the tire. 21mm socket. So the first thing I like to do before I remove this caliper, on this style, it has the e-brake cable attached to the caliper. So I want to take that cable off before I dismount the caliper. I'm just going to take a pair of cutters, hold the cable on the end here, see if I can pry back this. And then I'll slide it over like that. And there we go. Now it's ready to come off. Next, I'm going to take the anti-rattle clip off the front here. I've got two caliper slider pins right here. They have protective boots on them. I'm going to take these little boots off. One on the bottom, one on the top. The slider bolt is an Allen head number 7, so it's metric. Break it free. I'm going to break the other one free before you take that all the way out, so you have some leverage. There you go. Now you're going to take the caliper off the bracket itself. Now we'll take the pads out, remembering that the anti-rattle clip was in the back. Set them aside. 14mm socket. Let's break the nut free from the bracket. There's a bottom and a top. Let's loosen them both up. Remove the bracket and remove the rotor. So now we have to remove this e-brake cable from this caliper to install it in the new caliper, but calipers are aluminum and this is a little steel sleeve, so we really need to get some lubricant in there to hopefully loosen it up. We're going to let that sit for a little bit and we'll work on the flex hose, taking that off. Now we're going to take the flex hose off the caliper while that e-brake is soaking. So I'm just going to pop this bracket off so we have a little bit more flex to work with. Don't be afraid to move brackets around if you have to. There we go. So that's a 14mm wrench. I'm going to use a flare nut wrench because I don't want to strip it. I'm going to start it with this. And then I'm going to have to hold this caliper with a pry bar for leverage. So I'm putting the pry bar through the caliper like this, and I'm going to hopefully break it free. Use my body weight here. There we go. So now that I've got the flex hose completely broken free, it's starting to twist up here because of the e-brake cable. So I'm going to go back to working on that, breaking it out of the ear, and then I can just spin the caliper right off that flex hose. So soaked for a while, I'm going to take a brass punch. See that lip right there? That's the actual piece that slides in through that caliper bracket. So with a brass punch, fingers crossed. So we've got the e-brake cable out, And now the flexos, we can just spin the caliper. Make sure you have a catch bucket. And spin it up. So here's the new caliper. Before I mount this on the vehicle, I have to take it apart. Just a little bit easier way to do it. All right. Now I can install the caliper. I'm just going to reverse procedure here, and I'm going to put the flex hose on next. There is no copper washer or anything because this is what they call plumber thread. And it's going to go right, thread right in. It's 14 millimeter. So it's snugged up pretty good. But of course, once you've got it all mounted, you're going to give it one last little tweak. Now we can get ready to put the e-brake cable in. So before I put the e-brake cable back through, I'm going to spray this aluminum housing with a little bit of Never See, so that way in the future, hopefully that person doesn't have to deal with what I did. All right, so we'll line the flex hose back up in that bracket here. And now we can pull the cable through. We're going to get the rotor on, caliper bracket, and then we'll mount that and tighten everything up. Caliper mounting bracket bolts, I cleaned them up with a wire wheel brush, and I like to put just a dab of medium strength thread locker on there, and just a dab. I'll share that with the other bolt. That way, even though they get torqued, they won't back off, no chance of it. Red thread lock is a little too strong for that. Now we can get the rotor. Grab your bracket and a bolt. Let's get that up out of the way for now. The other bolt. All right, 14 millimeter socket, and now we're ready. We'll just snug these up. And once they're snugged up, we'll torque them to the spec. Snug them up, and then I'll get my torque wrench. Torque specs is 38 to 48. I'm going to go right to 48 because of the age of the car. Now the bracket's mounted and we're ready to go. We're going to put our pads back on. Now we can mount the caliper. Before I do the caliper onto the bracket, I'm going to put a little bit of silicone paste inside these rubber slide pin boots because you want that to stay nice and lubed up for the future. And the pins are brand new, so they don't need to be cleaned. That's always the fun part about a new caliper. It doesn't have to be so dirty. Okay, so now we can just bring this right down, line it up, grab the new pins. That's the 7 millimeter Allen head. Try to always hand start it. You never want to cross these threads, and it's very easy to. I'm not going to bottom it out yet, I just want to start it. And now I can move to the bottom one. Snug them right up, let them bottom out, and we will torque it to the manufacturer's specs. Torque specs for the caliper to bracket slide pins is 19 to 22 foot-pounds. Let's put the caps on. It stops dirt and grime. Now we can put the anti-rattle clip on. I'll put the top one in first. Up. And then don't be afraid. To some people like to put the pin in first and then pull that over with their hand. Some people put it in this way and then bring the pin up. Whatever works for you, but I do need a little pry bar. I like to start it in though. Like that. Then I'll pry this over. Take a little hammer and give it a little love tap. You may want to make sure those pins are all the way down. Okay, now we're ready to attach the e-brake cable in the front here. Make sure that boot goes all the way back to the seat. Stops water from getting in there. And there's no pressure in this right now because there's no fluid to this caliper. Limited fluid, shall I say. So we're going to take advantage of that too. Let's see if we're strong enough to pry this. And make sure you can get the cable in there. There it is. Make sure the seat's in there. It's in there. Make sure that rubber boot is up against that housing. So now the next step is we're going to lower the vehicle, check the master, top it off if it needs to, pump the brakes slowly to build pressure up in here. Then we're going to open this bleeder screw and let it gravity bleed. Now that the caliper's mounted, remember I said it would take one last good little snug on this flex hose. Just make sure it's seated. Okay, we've checked the master, topped it off, pumped the brakes up. Now we're just going to take the boot off of the bleeder screw. There we go. I got my catch basin down there, 10mm wrench. Just pop it open and let gravity do its job. So we just want it to gravity bleed until there's no more air pockets. And you'll see those right here at the very end of that bleeder screw. You'll see air come out with it. Sometimes you'll get a steady stream, just like a faucet. A lot of times you'll get just a steady drip. You can do this for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. If you have someone with you, you can do the pump and hold method. Sometimes with just one caliper, I like doing it this way. Also, on any caliper that has an e-brake cable attached to it in this way, before you open that bleeder screw, you can help yourself out by pulling on the e-brake cable inside the car 2 to 3 times, and it actually will seat that piston out. Then the fluid has time to travel in. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to snug it up. I'm going to pump it up, check the brake pedal, start the vehicle so the brake booster will fill up with air from the vacuum, and then see if the brake pedal feels normal for you. If it does, come back, clean this area up, put the boot back on, and mount the tire. Wheel torque on this car is 65 to 85. Always tighten in a star pattern. Then you're going to recheck. Location of the master cylinder is right in front of the driver's seat. There's a little reservoir. It's up on the top here. Remove the cover. And if you don't know what kind of brake fluid it takes, it will say it right there. In this case, it's right down here. It says .3. So we're going to top it off. It's got a line right here for max. You never want to bring the fluid all the way up because it's hydraulic. It does expand when it gets warm. So it will bleed out the cap if you do that. Snug it back up.